Would you like a dose of terror? Today, we're going to travel to Russia, specifically to Moscow. In the mid-19th century, it was one of the most prosperous European cities. Men and women from many places traveled there to develop professionally. In the center, one of the oldest streets was the Kuznetsky Most. Its name means the blacksmith's bridge, due to a nearby one that exists since the 18th century above the Nekolinaya River. The protagonist of today's legend, Josephina, whom everyone calls Zuzha, also worked on that street. The young woman was dedicated to the design of hats. Her designs were so successful in the Russian capital. Upper classes of society only wanted to wear her hats in their heads. In this way, Zuzha became one of the most famous designers in Russia. At that time, people said that the young woman was in love with a millionaire named Sava Morozov. She liked that he used his money for social causes, not like other wealthy men who only spent it on whims. He was a powerful textile businessman and one of the richest men in all of Russia. Some people said that the couple were getting married, others that she was so shy that she was not even able to talk to the man to initiate a relationship. Either way, people agreed that they were deeply in love. But the tragedy was not long in coming. Specifically, it did on May 13, 1905. It was winter weather, and the young Zuzha was circulating with her carriage through the central street ready to run some errands. But suddenly, she heard a young newspaper seller shouting that Sava Morozov had shot himself and died. This fact disturbed her so much that she jumped out of the moving carriage to check it herself in the newspaper. But she was so unlucky that her body ended up being crushed by one of the wheels. Although some people tried to save her life, they couldn't do anything, and she ended up dying as well. But the succession of misfortunes did not end there. The next morning, the boy who sold the newspaper was found dead. He had been strangled with a female stocking like the one Zuzha was wearing at the time of her death. This event set off the alarms. But the situation was more complicated when in the following weeks, the editors of the news in the newspaper died. The most gloomy thing was that they had also been strangled with a woman's stocking. Because of these events, the neighbors began to say that it was the ghost of Zuzha who had become a lost soul. She had not been able to find happiness, and it was possible that no one on that street does. Since then, some neighbors said they have seen pass a carriage in the middle of the night, and a young woman dressed in white jump from within. They say that her clothes are fine but very old, and that she emits a heart-rending groan, like when the carriage wheels crushed her. It is rumored that if a woman sees the ghost of Zuzha, it means that she will lose the man she loves, or in the worst case, her own life. In addition, newspaper vendors often avoid that street, fearing that the same thing will happen to them as the vendor who broke the news to the designer. So, be careful if you visit Moscow at night. Zuzha will jump out of the carriage at any moment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more Draw My Life horror videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode.